Welcome to Business and Beyond, the podcast where business leaders and big ideas meet real-world challenges. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of the BBB serving Western Virginia. Each episode, we will bring you candid conversations, expert insights, and real-life stories to help you lead with purpose, build trust, and grow your business with confidence. Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of the BBB serving Western Virginia. On this week's episode, we tackle what it really takes to build and sustain a family business while keeping the legacy that makes it special alive. Today, I'm joined by Matt and Cindy Shelor of John T. Morgan Roofing and Sheet Metal Company, who've been serving the Roanoke Valley for nearly 100 years. Thank you both for being here today. I love talking to businesses that have been around a long time because it's not easy. You go through a lot when you've been in business almost 100 years. You've seen a lot of change. Your family, obviously, legacy has seen a lot of change. So who wants to give a brief history of the family business and how it started, who started it?
Well, I guess I'll start off.
Okay.
She probably has more information about it than I do, but I know I think our incorporation, or not our incorporation, but our start date goes back to officially 1933.
Okay.
I know there's a little bit of discrepancy there as far as we think it may have actually been before then.
Gotcha.
But officially,
we're getting close to 100 years.
Date,
yes,
so.
okay.
Exactly. But it was started by John T. Morgan, who was my great-grandfather.
Okay.
Back then, he operated out of a truck. And, everything was word of mouth on a handshake.
Sure.
A lot different than it was today.
Right.
And then over time, my grandfather was Melvin T. Morgan.
Okay.
Him and my grandmother, Wanda, they took the business over. And then eventually my mom did. And now I've stepped into it. And
right.
We're in the middle of that transition right now.
So. Now, how old were you when you started working at the company?
Well, when I started working full-time, I was about 22.
Okay.
But I'd worked a couple summers doing odd and ends, in one in high school and then one in college.
Right.
And so, full-time since about 2011 or so.
Gotcha. It's always interesting to talk to, kids who came up through the business to find out, were you there when you were 12, right. Or 10? Mitch talks about picking up cans out of the parking lot when he was like 9 or 10 years old. That was how they started him out. So, you do kind of, I guess, that's how you get it in your blood.
Yeah, I was certainly around it when I was a kid. You would have me at the shop. I'd be in the back, with them. I remember a lot of guys and things that happened throughout the years. So I wasn't, working at the time, but I was involved. I was around it.
Sure.
So, yes, ma'am.
He was at the office when he was 6 days old.
Oh, well, see, there you go. That's how you get them started,
get
them involved, right?
Point, right?
Exactly. Literally born into it.
Yeah.
So, what does it mean? And Cindy, Matt obviously is on the earlier part of his career with the business, but, being around almost 100 years, over 90 years. What does it mean to you to be a part of that legacy? I know how proud you are of your family, your granddad. So how do you, it has to be a sense of pride that you have.
Well, it is. I can't say that I think about it every day, but I was blessed to grow up in a family where we were pretty solid. We attended church and regular activities, and there were values within the family. And I watched how hard my grandfather and my father worked, and I saw how giving and caring that they were. So, there have been times when I'm like, oh goodness, I think my grandfather might be closing his eyes right now saying, I don't know about this, Cindy. I'm sure he's proud.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes to the next question. How do you think your mission has evolved over the years, over the generations? You think about it, the business started during the Depression. So you've seen a lot, to a World War, Depression, a pandemic, let's just get most recent. So how do you think your mission has evolved, and has it been deliberate, or has it just happened kind of to keep up with the market?
I really don't think our mission has changed. We have been pretty solid, and we're not, I don't know that we would be the most sophisticated and spend a lot of time soul searching. We're pretty simple in what our goals are, and that we want to give good customer service at a good value and to have repeat customers.
Right.
And you do that by doing good work. But some of the aspects of the business have evolved during the years from that time, and we also like to think that we don't have all of our focus in one particular area of the market, because we do repairs, we do re-roofing, we do new construction, we do residential, commercial, and we're pretty versed in what we do in residential. So we've got more opportunities perhaps to keep us going than if we just did one particular thing.
Right. Yeah, so because when one's up, the other one's down, and it really allows you to level out your business some, I would think.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe, where I guess you could refer to it as our kind of our segment or our mix of, things that we do. That's probably the biggest things that's probably changed over time, because we were predominantly a residential contractor, from my understanding. Initially, yeah.
And predominantly did a lot of HVAC work. I mean,
We had a
Really?
sheet metal
Sheet
shop.
metal. Okay, so that was the sheet metal piece of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Now, I'm assuming you don't need that piece of it anymore. You
Not the HVAC.
pretty much
Yeah,
roofing
we still
and
have
guttering and all that.
we still have a sheet metal department. So we still make chimney caps.
Okay.
There will be some odd and end things. We've made copper covers for outdoor fireplaces, things like that. So
Right.
we can still make some, plenty of things within our shop. But yeah, the HVAC duct work and all that stuff that we used to make. Most large HVAC companies have created their own, sheet metal shops, and
Right.
they do all that now. So
Sure.
yeah, that's not as much of a mix. But yeah, getting into commercial and just kind of evolving into more and more segments of roofing over time is probably what's changed the most. Yeah.
Right. Well, as you pass the family business, how does that make you feel, Cindy? I mean, as you've...
Well, you're going to make me cry.
I don't want to make you cry.
No, it's with great pride. Really, it is. In fact, Matthew will tell you that when he was in college, he had zero interest in coming into the business. He really did. And
Right.
so, I spent a lot of time soul searching on how we were going to continue and what the plan would eventually be. And I was not going to pressure at all, because I wanted him to do exactly what he wanted to do. I'm not going to tell him that now, because he's kind of locked in. But it was with great pride, and I hear feedback from customers that are really pleased in the working relationship and in his leadership. So it makes you feel good as a parent. You can't say anything else.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I get it. Well, and, obviously the legacy of your grandfather and your father, your great-grandfather and grandfather, are there times when you hear their voices, to hear lessons that they told you, that you passed down, and to say to your current employees that any good ones?
Well, I'm going to go to you, because I didn't know my great-grandfather.
Okay.
He had passed
Right.
before I was born, and then I didn't ever get to work with my grandfather.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I knew
That's
him
a
more
silly
as
question.
a
Okay.
grandfather.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, my grandfather was he was a very I won't say a strong leader, but he was a leader, and but he led also with kindness and giving. And so when something comes before us, I might think back of the history of the family, and I know that trait, and we try to carry that on. My father I worked with more closely in a long period of time, so but he would say little funny things that come to mind with us. It wasn't necessarily business related, and it would kind of break the ice with employees, but he would go like, "Where were you when the lights went out?" "Down in the basement with your shirt tail out."
Okay.
Man.
That's perfectly appropriate.
But anyway, he just had that little side to him that we all enjoyed, and everybody always enjoyed to see him coming, and so just a good person to be around.
Well, that gives a nice atmosphere, a nice culture with with your employees. But can you point to any specific strategic decisions that you've made during your time of running the business that's allowed you to grow and expand and continue to be successful?
It would be more so with the people that we have brought on board.
Okay.
And Matthew's a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
My generation and my leadership associations, those people are retiring and moving on.
Mm-hmm.
But Matthew brought a relationship building with a side of the business that we had not really experienced before. So
Okay.
working with a lot of, I won't say developers, but management companies and general contractors that we were not quite as broad in our customer base.
Right.
that's
So getting a
been
little
great.
more involved on the new construction side or development that
A
piece
little
of
bit,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
A little bit more on the repair and maintenance side of
Okay.
things.
For managed properties.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
People that manage multiple properties and have a pretty big portfolio, you're obviously
Sure.
going to have a better chance at getting some repair work there.
Absolutely.
And then, certainly some general contractors that we've worked with whether it's renovations or new construction projects, which I think we had worked with most of the ones that we have a pretty good relationship with, but just
Right.
trying to further that relationship. And I know that started before I came on, because you had, someone else in the role trying to create some more relationships and that sort of thing. And
Right.
my first career path didn't work out. So
gotcha. Okay.
I actually came on part-time and was in that role of trying to help further some relationships and was only doing it just a couple days a week.
Right.
But it only took a couple months. And
Or it got in
I
your
ended up-
blood a little bit.
Yeah. It ended
Well,
up
it's in
turning
your
into a
blood. You had to
full-time job,
acknowledge
so-
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's great. How have you maintained your personal customer service, whether it's your relationship with your employees or your customers as you've been bigger and maybe you have more teams going out in the field? How do you keep that quality and that personal touch?
I think communication's the key there. It certainly comes with some challenges if you have more customers and maybe, not as large
Right.
of a workforce to be able to, handle it quite the way that you'd like to. But it just takes communication with customers and
Sure.
checking in. If you do a leak repair, following up after the next rain saying, hey, do you have any more issues? Just being proactive and communicating is probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah. Have you seen a lot of change in the products?
Yes, there's been a
Over the
significant
year, yeah.
change in the products, yeah. I know asphalt was a very popular
Sure.
product before I got involved with the business. Built-up roofs, gravel built-up roofs, coal tar pitch, all is kind of the same form of, an asphalt-based product. But now it's a little less messy. You have single-ply membranes. I would say the systems are equally as complicated, maybe even more so complicated, because you can really get into the weeds with vapor barriers and
Sure.
the way insulation is attached and tapered insulation, creating slip. So
Sounds
a
like
lot
lots
of products have
training.
changed. Yeah.
And see here, I'm thinking architectural.
But yes, on the
I'm thinking
yep.
of what I see and how that's changed.
Right, and so on the residential side, there's been some changes as well. Most of the products have stayed the same, but you have some different offerings. Metal shingles have evolved, and there's different types of metal shingles that you can put on. You can have solar roofs. Tesla has solar tiles, so they can look like slate, terracotta, various things like that are available. So there's been a lot of innovation as far as the products go.
Sure, yeah. Which gives you a lot more to offer, but it also means your people have to be trained.
It's correct.
A lot more different stuff.
Yeah. Once you get into solar and all that, you've got to have an electrician
different,
involved.
yeah.
And it's a different ballgame.
Definitely. Wow.
And we haven't jumped on board with everything that comes along new. We're a little more conservative, and we like to see what the quality and the product is going to be before we just say, okay, yeah, let's start doing this. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. We don't jump on the latest and greatest, right
Yeah,
away. We've seen too many things fail over the years. And
I've always said I don't want to be first in
Exactly,
anything. I want to
right.
let somebody else work out all the kinks, and
Yep.
then I can figure it out and move
Exactly.
forward. So. Well, you've been associated with BBB for quite a while. Cindy, you served on our board. You served as board chair. Matt's on the board. How does our standards for trust and accreditation fit into who you are? And how we like to say we're a community of trustworthy businesses, and it's a partnership that we have with our businesses that are accredited. But how do you feel like you've been able to either use that or recognize the importance of it?
I think we use it on a daily basis. It's just ingrained in who our company is and how we try to, train our employees. But the biggest thing is that our employees embody the same traits and the same characteristics. And so, basically, just doing the right thing, communicating, being honest. I think we basically share that with the BBB.
Right. Well, and obviously, not all roofers are created equal. Not all roofing companies are created equal, and we do, through periods of storms, see what we call storm chasers. People that come in out of town to do that. So, it's how do you make sure that your potential customers understand who you are and your transparency to keep your long-term success going? Because it's if when someone is getting ready to have that kind of project, that's a big project if it's a replacement, and from on the residential side, commercial side too. But commercial, you make a lot of decisions all the time. But on the residential side, that's a big thing, and you want to make sure you are dealing with somebody who's going to work with you. So, how do you make sure you are providing that notification that they know who you are?
I think just communicating with them on the front end, giving them a little bit of information about you. But I think the biggest thing is making it about the customer and what the customer wants. And obviously, we've got a track record of being here for almost 100 years, so that certainly helps. And with name recognition and even just a brief history, it builds some credibility right off the bat.
Right.
But just listening to them, I think a lot of people just hear and don't actually listen.
Sure.
And I think that goes a long way, at least in my experience. You can pick up on certain cues and things that a lot of people may not pick up on, and this is how they want it done.
Right.
Listening to their concerns, like if they've got a driveway and they need to get in and out, how can you coordinate the project so that they're able to get in and out of their driveway and you not be in their way. Right. I think covering a lot of aspects and basically just the whole process of how it's going to happen. We don't take money up front. We bill after the job's complete. So I think that is helpful. Right off the bat, to some people that may not be aware of who we are. A lot of storm chasers and even non-storm chasers, accept a deposit or take a deposit up front. So,
which, and if it's a small deposit, I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's when it gets into the big amounts that you
start having some questions probably go through your head.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of our residential, well, I don't know a lot, but there's a fair amount of our residential work we get referrals from people, and I think additionally, those people might check on the BBB website to check us out. So I think we're fortunate in that regard.
Right.
That really, a lot of our work is by referrals. They'll call and tell you who referred.
Right. Yeah. Well, that word of mouth is huge, and we always say, ask your friends and neighbors, ask your family, find out, and then check and see what we know about the different companies, because it's important that you consider both. I think it's make sure you don't make a mistake, maybe. So because businesses change, unfortunately, that you can't really control it. So, well, Cindy, what are some of the biggest leadership lessons you had during your time leading the company? Some of your aha moments, or failing forward, maybe even things that didn't work from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah. So I came into the business from a retail side. Oh. So I was a store manager with the Kroger company before I came into the business.
Okay.
And so people are people. I don't care whether you're making widgets or whatever you're doing. Working with people, and service industry, you're not going to do it without people as a team. So leadership styles have evolved from the time 40 years ago until now. Coming from the retail side that I did, it was pretty strict rules, and you had to follow a lot of lines that you don't have to when you have your private business, and that can be good. I'm not looking at the detriment of it, but it's more of working together kind of atmosphere now, rather than giving instructions, kind of making sure
Right.
that you do this the way that I tell you to do it kind of atmosphere, maybe many, many years ago. And it's a team building. It's a family business,
Yeah,
and it's kind
sure.
of an extension of our family.
Right. And have you followed a similar leadership?
I think some aspects, yes, but I think just with each generation, like she mentioned, leadership tactics and I guess personalities change, thought
Sure.
process change
Yeah.
as generations,
Absolutely.
grow up. So there's some small differences, but for the most part, I think we're along the same lines. I guess I would call it old school. I'm still of that kind of old school mindset, and not as much of the modern day mindset that so many people talk about.
I think people appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, because it's pretty hard to do a roof via email or on a social media
Right.
post. I mean, it does require hands-on and some face-to-face, which is good. So, well, have y'all started planning for the next generation?
I don't know. There is a next generation.
Yes, there is. That's the first step. I guess we'll have to wait a couple years and check back.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, like she did with me. There's not going to be any pressure or anything.
Yeah.
They're aware of the business. They're aware of the business. They've been around it. We've had some discussions, and we'll joke around and be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you want to work in the family business sometime?" And of course, it's like yes,
Of
because
course,
they don't want
that's
to go
just
to
the coolest thing.
Well, at least
yeah.
my son, he doesn't want to go to school or anything. He'd much
Okay,
rather do something else.
gotcha. Okay.
Well,
That's funny.
we'll see. They've got some time.
Okay, well, you don't know what's being whispered in your ear when you're not around. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, well, and he says I'm joking when I say this, but I've got 1.5 foot out the door, and he's pretty much taking over the lead. I get to do just some fun things and support kind of
Yeah,
things.
which has to feel kind of good after carrying more of the serious stuff on your shoulders for so long.
Well, fun stuff is fun.
Fun stuff is fun, and we'll keep it that way, right?
Yeah.
Well, Cindy, you've done some amazing things in the community, contributed to the community, and we're trying to keep Matt going along the same path because I do think it's super important for a business to be known in the community and do those things, services to make our community better, because we want everybody to stay here, and I think as we're getting more younger people in, it's super important that we have that foundation. And it helps having a foundation of a young person working in an older company, who you've kind of seen both sides of it. So if you had to name what you feel like your biggest contribution to the community has been over the years,
I
what would
don't
it
know
be?
that I have a single contribution. I mean, we certainly, every year, we do focus throughout the year on how we're going to give back to the community. But I will share a story that years ago, I was maybe 7 or 8, I'm not quite sure how long, I was sitting in my office and I got a phone call from a local ministry asking if we would be willing to donate some work on a facility. I had never heard of this organization, and I was like, why did you call me? And they said, because you're the oldest roofing company in the area.
Wow.
And I said, okay. I said, let me look into it and I'll get back to you. And the next morning, you know how we used to have a local TV station that would go into businesses in the morning
Yes.
and do.
Yep.
Well, that next morning they were in this organization doing that.
Wow.
I said, okay, I get it.
I'm okay.
I'm in.
I'm supposed to help them out. Yeah.
I'm in. So we have been kind of locked in with this particular organization since then. When they they did a facility that we were involved in. So to know that we made a little bit of difference in something that's has to do with youth, and that is important to the community. We
Sure.
like, but yeah. We don't really like to go out and wave a flag and say, oh, we did this or we did that.
No, of course not, yeah.
It's just not who we are. But we are here and we do give, and we're glad and blessed that we're able to do it. And thank the community allowing us to be able to be here and do it.
Well, and we're glad to have you. Any parting words?
No, just to touch on that, I think that's talking about some of the growth that we've experienced over the years, I think because we've been fortunate and had good customers to be able to grow, it has allowed us to contribute to more and more things throughout the years, and that's probably the best thing about it.
Right. And I think the more networking you have, too, the more people you're in contact with, the more likely you are to get connected, with other opportunities. So that's a great thing. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Business and Beyond. Thank you for listening. And Matt and Cindy, again, thank you so much for sharing. It always makes me happy to hear all these great stories, great historical businesses. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We also would like to keep this conversation going. So please connect with us on social media and share your ideas for future topics or guests. Until next time, keep building with integrity, leading with trust, and taking your business beyond expectations, the BBB way.